Alright guys, John Boat River Cats. We're going to do something a little different today. I'm going to show you guys my setup, my current setup versus my former setup. So we're going to start with my former setup. My main line was 40-pound Berkeley Big Game mono, and my leader I used 50-pound big game mono. Now this is fine. I made a mistake one day. I had a big fish on. This is back before my channel. He was 40 pounds plus, and I had a hold of him, and I pulled him into the boat. Well, I thought I had him in the boat, and then he went crazy, fell in the water. I still had a hold of my main line, or my leader, and he snapped my 50-pound leader, and I lost a really good fish that day. I have switched to Slimeline 40-pound mono. This is a 0.60 millimeter high vis green. This is a 1,370 yard roll. You can get the smaller rolls like this, but I use a lot of line, so my girlfriend got me 2 of these big rolls for my birthday one day. So I've been using this. It's really good line. Supposedly it has a really high stretching point. I have not looked into the details of that. I haven't seen any videos of it, but I was told that this has a lot of stretch to it before it breaks. So far I haven't broke any line from a fish. I have snapped it off being snagged, and I have broke it flinging a 8-ounce weight and forgetting to release my spool. But the leader that I switched to is just Sea Striker 80-pound monofilament. This is 170 yard spool, 80-pound and 50-pound. You can really tell the diameter difference. I'm gonna hold this closer to the camera. This is the 80-pound and this is the 50-pound. The abrasion resistance difference in that is quite a bit. Of course, 80-pound can take a lot more rubs against rocks. I mean, if let's say this is a rock and your fish is down here messing with it, you know, all of that action right there where that line's riding on the rock, your diameter makes a difference. Of course, your pound test as well. So that's what I've switched to. It seems to be working out very well. Now keep in mind, 80-pound diameter line, and when you get up to 100-pound diameter mono, it gets pretty hard to tie knots in. This is a Carolina rig. This is mainly what I use for bank fishing, casting out the back, and suspending. Of course, this high vis line is my main line, and this is just a bead. It's a rubber cushion. It's made by Catmax. You can get them at Bass Pro Shops. It's rubber instead of plastic, so I mean it takes a little more of a beating than plastic, but it's a little more forgiving on these knots. Basically what I've found happens, especially with an 8-ounce weight, is it will actually push down and form over the knot and cover the knot completely, which I like. I think that gives it more abrasion resistance on the knot itself. If your knot's rubbing up against rocks or any kind of steel, there's a lot of metal in rivers and lakes now where people have lost anchors and just lost boat trailers around boat docks and stuff. There's even cars, sunken boats, old bridge structure in reservoirs before they were flooded from the creek bed or the river beds. I've got a 4-ounce weight. When I'm throwing out the back of my boat in current, or even on the bank, I don't use a real heavy sinker, because the heavier sinker you use, the more it tends to fall and sink down into stuff. And even when you go to reel in, let's say you have an ugly stick catfish rod from Walmart, when you go to pull that bait off the bottom to check your baits or something, it's harder to pull it off the bottom the heavier you go. So you have more of a chance of that weight staying on the bottom as you're reeling back to you, and this getting snagged on something. Now, a lot of times if your hook gets snagged, you can kind of use your sinker to beat down on the hook. You can pull up tight and let loose slack, and sometimes that sinker will get down there and knock your stuff loose, and you can pull it back up. But if your sinker itself gets hung, you can almost kiss your rig goodbye, unless you can figure out a way to get around it and get on the back side. Let's say you were pulling this way. If you're trying to pull this way, you're out of luck. So you need to drift back this way and try to pull your weight back out the opposite way you came. For my rig, how I tie it, of course, I get my leader length, which is about a foot and a half. I tie a no knot snell for my hooks. This kind of gives the hook a trigger action to help hook better. This is an 8/0 circle hook. I ordered a 25 pack off of eBay, and I've been going through those just a little bit, so pretty soon I'll have to order some more hooks. This is the 25 quantity value pack. I haven't found any issues with the Gamakatsus. When you get into the like the cheaper no-name brand hooks, which I bought a value pack of that before, you'll get a lot of dull hook tips, or you'll get some that are like really long tips so you don't have much of a gap, or you'll get some that are so thin, they'll start out thick, they'll get thin, and then they'll thicken back up again, and that'll make your hook tip break off fairly easily, or bend up real easily. So always inspect your hooks, your hook points, and also keep in mind, sometimes you'll get a hook and there's probably not any in here, but I'm just going to take one out to show you. These are all nice and sharp. They're very, very good hooks, but always pay attention to your eye, your hook eye, because sometimes, you know, it's not welded, it's literally just curled around and kind of crimped there. Well, sometimes it doesn't curl all the way around and crimp good, and you'll have a big gap there that will allow your line to come out. These are my father's old reels. He passed away about two years ago, March. That was him on a crappie fishing trip. Pin Peerless number 9. I have no idea the year, but I was using this reel. It still has a good drag system. It's still a pretty smooth reel. The only issue I had was the amount of retrieve per turn, and I was literally having to do that right there to get any retrieve. So I retired this one for fishing the Neuse River, which is pretty close by, and this one as well. This one actually has pretty good retrieve. It's an Abu Garcia Ambassador 5500 CA. These were originally made in Sweden. You can tell by the yellow and blue, and it says Sweden there. But these are really good reels. These reels last a very long time. A lot of people love old Abu Garcia reels, especially me. I have a newer Abu Garcia reel, but the price that they've jumped up to now, it doesn't look like I'm gonna get any more of them anytime soon. Sometimes drag baits, especially in shallow creeks and stuff, when I get up 6, 8, 9 foot of water, all I did was I took bullet weights that you use for like culprit worms for bass fishing, and I shoved however many as I could to get it up to about here. Let's see where the weight stopped. Well, right about here. And this is heavy enough to sink down to the bottom, and I have enough flotation here to where this drags over stuff pretty well. This is my box that I keep all my weights in. I got some 6 ounce pyramid weights, 2 ounce, 1 ounce, some more 1 ounce. I believe these are 2 ounce egg weights, 4 ounce egg weights, 8 ounce egg weights. Now I'm very low in 8 ounce egg weights, and these things are not cheap. The price of lead is going up more and more, and these are not getting cheap. So that's the main reason I've switched to 4 ounce. I said, man, I've got a bunch of 4 ounce, let me use those. But these 8 ounce I use more when I'm suspended. The current at the river I fish, they can generate some pretty heavy current. So some days when they're only generating maybe 1 or 2 gates, you can get by with a 4 ounce. It won't pull your bait too high in the water column. But on those days where they're running about 3 mile an hour current, if you're anchored up suspending, you need at least an 8. Sometimes you need a 10, maybe even a 12 to hold your bait down low enough in the water column where they're at. This is my hooks, swivels, and of course my peg floats for my Santee Cooper rigs. Alright, so when you get a pack of hooks, keep your eye out for that right there. I got this hook out and I tied it on, and I was like, well, this is not gonna work. It'll slide right off that eye. Now, a lot of times when I go out, I will bait fish in between, and I also like to crappie fish. These are some jigs I tied up. I'm a big Bobby Garland fan. I've got some Moglos. Let's pull this back into the camera a little more. Got some Moglos, some Blue Thunder baby shad, some Lights Out baby shad, some Outlaw Special, the Blue Ice. I love Blue Ice, that's my favorite. Some Chartreuse and Red Glitter. What's this? Some Monkey Milk, some Threadfin shad, Crystal shad, Electric Chicken, your Patriot, and your Albino shad. This is my Cat Max reel. I believe they come about 12 pounds of drag, 5-to-1 gear ratio. These are really good casting reels. I talked about that in my last video. I believe it was my last video. It might have been the video before that. But the push button system is pretty good. It's nice to be able to push a button and hold your line when you've got a pretty heavy weight on the end. You don't want it to start spooling off. It's nice, easy one-handed action. Of course, this rod, this is the Big Cat Fever. This is the white Big Cat Fever. This and my other white. Those were my first 2 Big Cat Fever rods, and I fell in love with them from the start. I'm sure this is upside down, but it's a 7'6", 20 to 60 pound line, 2 to 16 ounce weights. This is the heavy action, so you can chuck a 16 ounce weight out there. I wouldn't fling it too hard, but you can still cast one out. But yeah, the tips of these rods are a lot beefier. than a Catfish rod from Walmart. I feel that a rod with a stronger tip will give you a better hookup with a larger hook. Now if you're using a 5/0 hook and you're fishing for channels, go ahead with a Shakespeare rod, Catfish rod from Walmart. Nothing wrong with them. That's what I started out using. I caught tons of fish on them. They still work, but I do feel that a stronger rod tip will hook a fish faster than a flimsy, thin rod tip. You're thinking about that resistance of the fish pulling on this. Just from that much resistance right there could start a hook set. And the further down it goes, the more tension gets put on that hook point in the mouth. So the fish doesn't have to pull this rod down near as far to get hooked up versus an ugly stick Catfish rod. Alright. This is my Abu Garcia C3 7000 reel. My ultimate favorite reel. This is a winch. This drag system is 20 pounds, and it's literally like it's like a winch. You can winch just about anything in fresh water with this reel. People even use these to catch sturgeon, white sturgeon, and they work pretty good. This reel was, I believe, $160 when I bought this reel. With tax and all, I believe it cost me $180. Now this reel is $200. I believe it's $212. So you add the tax to that, you're going to be paying close to $240 for this reel now. I did not want to do that. I mean, as much as I like the reel, I just needed something, you know, beefier than this. Something that had better retrieve. This actually does have a pretty strong drag system. I'm not going to lie, very, very strong drag system. But the retrieve speed on it, it's pretty much geared to pull like a truck. It's got a, you know, first gear is like, you're not going to get a whole lot of acceleration, but you're going to get a whole lot of torque out of it. So Abu is also on a Big Cat Fever heavy action 7'6". The reel that replaced this one and this one is the Piscifun, however you want to pronounce it, Chaos XS50. And this reel, I took it out the last 2 trips. They are awesome reels so far. I'm curious to see how long it's going to last. I believe they're about $58 on eBay, and or not eBay, I'm sorry, Amazon. And or you can get them off the website. You go to piscifun.com. The 50s come with 20 pounds of drag, and the 60s come with 22 pounds of drag. The 60s are more expensive, but they didn't have them in stock on Amazon. On Amazon. I believe even if you look on there now, they're not in stock on Amazon. So I went with the 50. It was 20 pounds of drag. I said, hey, that's the same amount of drag that my big reel, my big Abu Garcia has. Let's see how they work. So I got them. They cast really good. You got a good thumb button there. And like I said, they're easy to cast, just like the Cat Max reels. And they got a power handle. And 20 pounds of drag is plenty. I mean, so far I'm very impressed with this reel. It holds a fair amount of line. It doesn't hold as much as my Abu Garcia, but I believe this and the Cat Max are kind of tit for tat. Now if you notice how much wider the Piscifun reel, or the spool, is versus the Abu 5500 CA, you can see the difference there. This will hold quite a bit more line. These did come with a plastic piece that went across here. I didn't like it there because it makes it hard to feed line and grab your line and get it tied onto the spool. So it's literally just plastic and it sits right in there. I just snapped it off. It pops out fairly easily, and it's got 2 hooks that go around this bar. But it was a decorative piece. It didn't really serve a purpose, and it gives me more spool to grab. It gives me better, you know, more room to grab my line when I'm tying on new line. But I believe that's pretty much it. That's all the gear I use. We went over what I started using versus what I switched to. If you're going to be out on the water, or if you're especially going to be out on the coast, get you a Chapman piloting and seamanship book. It's got a lot of good information on safety and all that good stuff. Not sponsored or anything, but my father got me this, and I read into it a little bit and got some information that's pretty helpful out on the water. It's got stuff in there that shows you how to set up your navigational lights. If you liked the video, slam that like button, share the video with your family and friends. Hopefully this has been helpful. If it has, cast a comment down below, and last but not least, subscribe. Catch you on the next one.